At a wedding we went to recently, my wife spent the entire evening dancing with her closest male friend while completely ignoring my existence. When someone asked her if she was married, she smiled and said, "Not really. It doesn't count when the guy's dull." Everyone around her burst out laughing. I just stood there and watched. The next morning, she woke up in an empty hotel bed. That's how my marriage died last Saturday night. No screaming, no slammed doors, no shattered glass. It ended with a giggle. Her giggle, a sharp, cruel little sound that echoed across a glittering hotel ballroom and told me everything I still needed to hear. Let me rewind a bit. My name is Tom. My wife, ex-wife now, I suppose, is Olivia. We had been married for years. From the outside, everything looked perfect. Nice house, decent cars, vacations posted on social media. The full package. But underneath, the structure was rotten. I had known it for roughly a year. I pay attention. I see patterns. And the pattern was Ben. Ben, her best friend since childhood. For the first couple of years, I played the relaxed, confident husband. I told myself their closeness was innocent, just old friendship. But after the wedding, something shifted in her. The entitlement grew. The respect shrank. The red flags went from subtle hints to massive banners waving in my face. It was the nonstop texting. The way her phone was always tilted away from me when his name popped up. It was how she brought him into every discussion, measuring my decisions against what Ben would do. The moment I knew I had to start preparing my exit was about 8 months ago. I had spent weeks planning our anniversary trip, a quiet cabin in the mountains, the kind of peaceful escape we used to dream about. When I showed her the photos, her reaction was lukewarm at best. The next day, she came to me with a new idea. Ben had told her we should go to the brand new coastal resort instead. It's supposed to be incredible. It wasn't a suggestion. It was already decided by the two of them. My plan didn't matter. We went to the resort. I spent 4 days watching her send him sunset pictures in real time. That's when it hit me. I wasn't the trusting husband anymore. I was the backup plan, the reliable ATM, the boring foundation she stood on while living her real life with someone else. So I stopped playing the doormat. Quietly. I'm not a dramatic person. Drama is her specialty. I'm methodical. I started building my exit strategy. First call was to a lawyer a colleague recommended. We spoke for 90 minutes. He walked me through assets, liabilities, and timing. The house was solely in my name, bought years before I ever met her. That was the cornerstone. He told me how to shield everything else. The next morning, I opened new accounts at a completely different bank and began rerouting the majority of my income there. I left just enough in the joint accounts to keep the illusion alive. I was constructing a runway, one quiet transfer at a time. I knew I would need it eventually. I just didn't know the exact day. Last Saturday's wedding turned out to be that day. It was one of her college friends' weddings, extravagant, over the top, exactly Olivia's scene. She had bought a new dress, slightly expensive dress, and put it on the joint card without asking. She spent the whole night glued to Ben. Loud laughter, dramatic twirls on the dance floor, the full performance. I barely existed. And I let her. I wasn't there to compete for attention. I was there to collect the final confirmation I needed. Around 10 o'clock, I was standing by the bar chatting with the groom's uncle. Olivia was across the room with Ben and a small circle of strangers. I saw a woman notice Olivia's ring and ask, loud enough to carry, "Are you two married?" Olivia could have simply said no and pointed at me 20 feet away. Instead, she gave that theatrical laugh and said, "I am married, just not to him, sadly." Then she leaned in like she was sharing the juiciest gossip and added, "Honestly, it doesn't really count when he's this boring." The group laughed, polite, but unmistakably pitying laughter. That was it. No rage. No dramatic heartbreak. Just an icy, crystal clear certainty. This wasn't a marriage. It was a running joke, and I was the punchline. I didn't make a scene. I just gave her a small nod from across the room. The kind she probably read as, "I see you having fun." But it wasn't that. It was goodbye. I turned, walked out of the ballroom, and never looked back. Update 1. The first thing I did in the hotel room was remove my wedding ring. I placed it on the dresser and stared at it for a moment. It felt like taking off a mask I'd worn too long. Then I packed my overnight bag, calm, precise movements. I had rehearsed this sequence in my head for months. I wasn't running on emotion. I was executing a checklist. I checked out, got in my car, and drove home in total silence. 40 minutes of quiet road felt like the first deep breath I'd taken in a year. I reached the house just before midnight. My house. First task, secure the property. I went straight to the smart home panel, opened user settings, found her profile, and deleted it. Her phone no longer opened doors. Her key fob was dead. I manually changed every garage code. In under 5 minutes, she was locked out forever. Next, money. I logged into the joint checking account, the one I kept topped up for her lifestyle, and transferred every dollar to my new account. Then I went into the credit card portal. Her supplementary card had been living its best life lately. New dress, spa days, luggage for a girl's trip. I reported the card stolen. Instant freeze. Then came the part one had both dreaded and looked forward to, removing her presence from the house. I had already bought dozens of flattened moving boxes and kept them in the garage for exactly this night. For the next 3 hours, I worked like a machine. Closet, bathroom drawers, nightstand, office. Everything that was hers went into neatly taped boxes and was stacked in the garage. I wasn't furious. I wasn't even particularly sad. It felt clinical, like clearing out an office after someone quits. At 3 a.m., I sent my lawyer a 2-word email. File it. Then I slept better than I had in 12 months. The calls began the next morning. First a breezy, "Where are you, babe?" from the hotel. She assumed I'd gone to work early. An hour later, panicked because her card was declined for her and Ben's room service breakfast. An hour after that, pure hysteria. She was on the front porch screaming that her key didn't work. I answered that one. "Tom, open the door." "This isn't funny." "I know," I said, voice completely level. "I heard what you told everyone last night, Olivia. You said your marriage doesn't count because I'm boring. So I'm granting your wish. You're free. No more boring husband. No more boring house." She immediately switched to damage control. "It was just a joke. You're overreacting. It doesn't matter anymore," I said. "Your belongings are in 42 boxes in the garage. Movers come tomorrow, and we'll put everything in paid storage for 3 months. I'll text you the unit number. The joint account is empty. The card is canceled. Divorce papers will be served Monday." I heard Ben in the background coaching her. "He's bluffing. He'll calm down." "I already did this," I said. "Enjoy your exciting new life." I hung up and blocked both numbers. Phase 1 complete. Update 2. Of course they didn't go quietly. People like Olivia and Ben have never faced real consequences. They rewrite reality, so they're always the victims. My outdoor cameras caught them circling the house like cartoon burglars. Ben even tried to ram the front door with his shoulder before remembering physics exists. The next day, the moving truck arrived. They parked across the street in Ben's car and watched the whole thing. I went outside, checked the mailbox, then spent 20 leisurely minutes pulling weeds, completely ignoring them. My calm indifference seemed to enrage them more than any shouting match ever could. When brute force failed, they switched to social warfare, Olivia's strongest weapon. Within 24 hours, the narrative was everywhere. I had snapped at the wedding, imagined insults, and violently thrown my poor innocent wife out in the middle of the night. Classic jealous, controlling husband who couldn't handle her having a male friend. Some people believed it. Her mother left a 5-minute tear-soaked voicemail about how ashamed she was of me. Aunts sent venomous texts. They were trying to paint me as the monster and isolate me. They didn't realize I had already isolated myself from their entire circus. I needed undeniable proof. Weddings in 2025 are filmed from 50 angles by guests. I messaged the bride's teenage cousin who had been live streaming everything to her Instagram. Told her I was making a little highlight reel for the couple and asked for her raw footage. She happily shared a Google folder. I scrolled until I found it. A perfectly framed background shot of Olivia at the bar delivering her line, crystal clear audio. 10 seconds of pure gold. I trimmed the clip and sent it in a single group text. Recipients carefully chosen. The bride and groom, Olivia's parents, her sister, and, most importantly, Ben's long-term girlfriend Emily, whose number I still had from a dinner party. Message was simple. I know stories are flying around. This 10-second clip is the only story that matters. This is why my marriage ended. Then I turned my phone on airplane mode and went for a 4-mile walk. Final update. 6 months later, the divorce is signed and finalized. My lawyer said it was the fastest uncontested case he'd ever handled. Hard to argue for half the assets when there's video of you publicly declaring the marriage fake. The video didn't just end my marriage. It detonated their entire social universe. The bride and groom were livid that Olivia turned their wedding into toxic drama and cut her off completely. They even sent me a separate note apologizing for what happened at their event. Olivia's image-obsessed parents were mortified. When they watched their daughter on video mocking her husband in public, something snapped. They stopped funding her lawyer, told her to get a job, and went practically no contact. Ben's girlfriend Emily didn't just leave him. She went nuclear. She posted the clip herself, wrote a scorching caption about years of lies and disrespect, and tagged both of them. It spread like wildfire through our circles. Word is Emily's father, a well-connected businessman, quietly made a few phone calls. Ben's sales career, built almost entirely on golf course handshakes, has collapsed. Olivia, stripped of parental money, friends, and reputation, now waitresses nights and shares a cramped apartment with 3 strangers. The thrilling, glamorous life she felt entitled to vanished overnight. I sold the big house. Too many memories. Bought a sleek downtown condo with floor-to-ceiling windows. It's minimal, quiet mine. They call me boring. Maybe I am. But boring comes with peace, financial security, and self-respect. She woke up alone in that hotel bed. Yet the truth is she had been alone in our marriage for years. I simply made it official.